Roy Williams has been traded, and that's the subject of this special edition of Charch Chat here at Open Sports. Thanks for joining us. I'm Paul Charchian from LeagueSafe.com. Okay, well, let's dive into the fantasy implication of Roy Williams, now a Cowboy. A couple things. First is, I really believe these next 3 games plus bye week under Brad Johnson will be effectively lost for Roy Williams, and you're not going to see a lot of productivity. First, he's got to learn a new offense. He probably won't even be active this week, and if he is, it'll be for spot duty with a couple of design plays, and that may be it. And so you've got that factor. Brad Johnson, the weak arm, pretty ineffective in his last stint with Minnesota. I'm not a believer that he's a great fit for the offense the way that we saw it under Tony Romo, and I think this offense is going to change, get a lot more conservative. So I don't see a lot here with Roy Williams' effectiveness between now and when Tony Romo comes back, in part also because a couple of really tough games. They got St. Louis next week, then they got a couple of tough games in a bye week, and so it just doesn't feel like the schedule sets up for him to be very effective either. So blending all those things together, I don't see him doing a lot until November 16th when Romo is scheduled to come back after the bye week. Now, by that time, Roy Williams should be much more familiar with the offense, the terminology, and at that point, he could start to be a lot more effective. Now, the games that are on the schedule when he comes back are pretty favorable for him. However, when you get to the playoffs, and you may be thinking about trading for Roy Williams, the playoff run is very, very bad. And let's talk about it for a minute. Week 14, Dallas goes to Pittsburgh. That could be the end of your fantasy season right there if you're relying on too many Cowboys. That's going to be tough. Then in Week 15, they go up against the Giants, and that can be a very tough matchup. Despite what we saw on Monday Night Football, this is still a very good Giant defense. Then they host Baltimore. That's a tough one in Week 16, and if you're the kind of league that plays in Week 17, it's no easier as they go to Philadelphia, a very good defense there too. So a murderer's row for the playoffs. And so, the effectiveness for Roy Williams, in my mind, really diminished by the Brad Johnson injury and the fact that in the playoffs, it's going to be very hard to get much done. There's a window there in November when you can get some good reps week in and week out for the second half of November, early December, but that's it. That is all that you're going to get, in my mind, with safe, reliable production from Roy Williams. So if you're thinking about perhaps capitalizing on this move to Dallas, I encourage you to think twice. And if you've got Roy Williams, maybe you sell to somebody who's really excited, hyped up about this news, more so than really analyzing the schedule and what it might mean. I think everybody realizes that the Brad Johnson 3 games is not going to do much, but there are a lot of people that are going to be thinking from the middle of November forward, I've got a great starter. I don't know that that's the case. And also let me factor in, he'll be the 3rd or 4th receiving option on this team even when he comes back. T.O.'s still T.O. Jason Witten's probably going to continue to lead the team in receptions, and Marion Barber siphons off a lot of balls. And so I really am not crazy about the notion of overreacting to this news and going and getting Roy Williams, even if you feel like you're taking a long-term view of this thing and thinking about the fantasy impact down the stretch, because the schedule so unfavorable for the Cowboys in the fantasy playoffs. All right, thanks for watching this special edition of Charch Chat, dealing specifically with Roy Williams.
So you think you can tackle a pro? There's only one way to find out. Click on fantasy at opensports.com.